Hello, welcome to Mad Dodge Productions. I am the Mad Libertarian, and this is the final part in my three-part stream going into the Libertarian Party platform. I'm here with my guest, Wolfshot. Would you like to shout out your channel before we begin?
Looks like Bullshot's not here at the moment.
All right, well then, I guess let's just dive right in. I don't think I'm going to screen share it this time. I read it out anyway, so I don't really see the point. So, Section 3 of the party platform is securing liberty. The protection of individual rights is the only proper purpose of government. Government is constitutionally limited the infringement of individual rights by the government itself. The principle of non-initiation of force, the non-aggression principle, should guide the relationships between governments. Any thoughts? I don't know. MC, we'll go to you first.
Okay. How do you define force?
The force.
Rip them apart.
Well, in what instance do you define? What are you talking about?
Do you just sit back and wait for them to deliver the first blow?
No. Sooner or later, I'm not touching you. I'm not touching you. Turns into aggression.
Okay. When does that happen?
When they're, let's say somebody's going to attack you or a government. So if the government's building up nukes and they flat out say, I'm going to attack you, then maybe we should have a declaration of war. But
what if they say that they're not going to attack you? They don't make that kind of declaration, but they start building up their forces to the point where it looks like they're going to attack you.
Are they building up along the border in this scenario?
Preemptive strike, motherfucker.
No,
but they haven't crossed the border, but they're building up.
You know, this whole thing is called the Bush Doctrine. If we think you're going to attack us, we can attack you.
Well, see,
that was far beyond Bush.
I would say maybe you build up along your border and you counter them, kind of like I'm playing Civ 5 like all day today. And that's what I'm doing with Germany right now on Civ 5. They have a bunch of troops on their border. I have a bunch. We're just waiting for somebody to pull the trigger. It worked in the Cold War. We won it.
It worked in the Cold War because the enemy really didn't want a war.
And we both had nuclear deterrence.
Yeah, what are we arguing, by the way?
I haven't argued anything yet. I just asked a question.
I don't know. I'm just throwing in random shit.
Pretty much the beginning statement of this part of the platform was talking about the non-aggression principle between governments and the fact that the government can...
Basically, it comes down to what can be viewed as aggression. And it's always going to be a gray area.
Mean words. I need a safe space.
I put a link out in the chat, the main chat about the Bush Doctrine. And yeah, it's what we use to go into war with Afghanistan.
With Afghanistan?
Or Iraq or whatever the fuck.
Yeah, I think it had more to do with Iraq.
Well, it was used to justify the war, the 2001 war in Afghanistan. But we went to Iraq, or whatever the fuck. We went to the Middle East.
I think 9/11 was enough of a justification for going into Afghanistan.
Well, to go to war, you have to have a declaration of war by Congress, do you not?
No, you do. That's why it's considered a conflict.
That is true. However, you also there's nothing in Congress in the Constitution which specifies what is an authorization to go to war.
Wait a minute. It does specify. It says
it does.
Only the
Congress needs to back it.
To go to war.
But it doesn't specify what how the wording Congress has to use. So if Congress sits up there and authorizes the use of military force,
declaration.
No, if Congress authorizes the use of military force, that can be considered a declaration of war.
But it's not. It's almost on the tune of letters of marque at this point, where they just say, hey, you guys can go attack these guys for 180 days. Come back and ask us again.
Whether we agree with that or not, and to be honest, I agree with you. But whether I agree with it or not, that's not what the Supreme Court came down as. This issue has been argued in the Supreme Court, and they came back and said there is no specific language that must be used by Congress to authorize war, the war powers of the president.
Who was the
war
leading
powers
justice?
are a little bit different.
Wait a second. Who was the lead justice that dissented? I would love to read that argument.
I honestly don't remember.
Okay, go ahead, Wyatt.
Well, declaration of war, you need Congress's backing. If you're using semantics, you can just call it a conflict, and then the fucking A, I'm going to say president, but I don't want to. Oh, god damn. Executive. There we go. The executive branch can now enlist, military backing into this area and just call it a conflict. Now it is a combative conflict, not necessarily a declaration of war.
Well, but once
Indeed.
again,
So there are loopholes.
well, but there's
Indeed.
also Congress still has the power of the purse. If the Congress doesn't like a military conflict that the president is engaged in, they have the power through the power of the purse to put a stop to it.
True, but you would also need the backing of the party, and because of the party system, kind of makes it a muddled.
You would need the backing of the party.
Well, no, you do, because
whoever was in whichever party
with
was
Congress, Senate, and even judiciary,
But
you need to have the backing of the party. Otherwise, you wouldn't. Politics.
I mean, politics is obviously going to be involved, but you don't need the backing of the party. I mean, one party. I mean, there have been numbers of bills where both sides of the aisles members have crossed and changed votes across those lines. Okay, so it's not necessarily a backing of the party. You would need the majority of Congress to vote. Yes, that's true. But they could do it.
Yes, could being the key word there.
All right, so there is a limitation on the president in that aspect. But when it comes down to a declaration of war, all right, there is nothing in the Constitution that tells you what the wording is that defines what a declaration of war is. And so far, it has been broadly interpreted that any approval of military action can be considered a declaration of war.
The last time we had a declaration of war was
World War II.
Korea.
Yeah, World War II.
No, I thought Korea was a declaration.
No,
Korea
that was a conflict.
No, that was a conflict.
Korea was not
Oh, you're
not a
right.
declaration of war.
I was stepping on my own toe because I was like, fuck, was Korea, or not Korea, was Vietnam an actual declaration? But no, I remembered. The last
Okay, can I
declaration of war was
read
World War
in
II.
the
Yes.
what the Constitution says about declaration of war?
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Article 1, Section 8, Clause 11 of the United States Constitution grants Congress the power to declare war. The president, meanwhile, derives the power to direct the military after a congressional declaration of war from Article 2, Section 2, which names the president commander-in-chief of the armed forces.
Okay.
Wait, so as commander-in-chief, do you believe that he has the power still to declare war himself? Because it's also written that
he does not have.
Congress has the power.
Then why can't he declare a police action? Why can't he unilaterally use the troops in that manner? Iraq has been going on forever.
Yeah. And Congress authorized it too.
They didn't declare war, though. They authorized.
They authorized military action. If the Congress wants to stop that, hold on. If Congress wants to stop that action, they can. They have the power. Hi, Benny. They have the power to do so.
No, you know what, MC? I am tired of Congress giving up their powers like this. Oh, President,
Wait. Congress didn't give up shit. It's in the Constitution that Congress has to has the power to declare war.
The president fucking says it's
back
ridiculous.
in 1903. All right, the United States Congress got into a fight, verbal spat, for lack of a better term, with the current president, the president of the United States at that time. All right, the president of the United States at that time was Theodore Roosevelt. Theodore Roosevelt had determined on his own to show military might to send the U.S. fleet around the world, basically. All right. Congress was saying, no, you can't do that. He ordered the U.S. fleet out of port and sent them on their way. All right. This went to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court said, yes, he is the commander in chief. He can do it up to the point where he had the funding. And the funding at this time only allowed the ships to sail halfway around the world. So Roosevelt's response was, well, I sent them the first half. If they want them back, they'll sit up there and fund the rest of it. That is the power that the president has over the United States military. And then
there was the War Powers Resolution.
And it is the absolute. Congress has certain limitations. For one thing, Congress can specify two things that limit the president. One is funding, right? The second thing is they can determine the size of the active military.
Oh, wait. Okay. I have a question. Before we move on, because we do need to move on to the actual points. That's just the opening statement of Section 3. But no, man. So if Congress cut the funding for the Korean military personnel there, they would have to shut down and move off of the Korean Peninsula? Is that what you're saying?
Well, they would either do that or have to starve in place.
Okay, so with Nixon, when he sent troops to Southeast Asia without congressional approval, Congress responded by passing the War Powers Resolution in 1973. And that resolution requires the president must communicate to Congress the committal of troops within 48 hours.
That is true.
And it requires the president to remove all troops after 60 days if Congress has not granted an extension.
Yep.
So Congress, I mean, technically has the power to say no.
Actually,
yes, it's a check and balance system.
They've said that, and they've never actually tried to enforce it. And the reason is
never have.
No, they've never tried it. The first ones who even thought about trying it was when Reagan put troops in Lebanon, and he said, "You want to sit up there and tell me what I can do? Well, I'll take you to court." The Congress never took him to court over it.
Oh, I know.
Because they're afraid that they would lose.
Well, it's ridiculous. With all these checks and balances, you have executive, Congress, legislative, and judicial. And the president just keeps taking more and more power. And it doesn't matter which president you say.
He's not taking more and more power. To be honest, the biggest problem... If you look at it historically... No. The biggest problem
the executive branch has been getting more and more.
The executive branch is not the only one that's been getting more and more.
Yeah, the judicial branch has been overreaching as well. Thanks for pointing that out. Shall we move on? I believe that the legislative branch has been giving up its power, if you want to continue on this train of thought.
Well, I agree that the legislative branch has been giving up its powers. I'm not going to disagree with you on that.
Okay, well then, yeah, we will move on. So, 3.1, it's really short too. National defense. We support the maintenance of a sufficient military to defend the United States against aggression. The United States should both avoid entangling alliances, attempts to act as policemen for the world. We oppose any form of compulsory national service. We oppose the draft. How do you feel? Starting with UMC as usual.
Well, personally, I think everybody should be drafted.
You like an Israeli type program?
Well, something like that, or along the way the Germans do it.
I vehemently disagree.
I do not.
My son be forced into the military for
your daughter
4 years. Well, it's usually the only sons have to sign up for the selective services, man.
Well, I think women should be drafted as well.
Well, in the States, that's not a thing. So why should his son be drafted?
I think everybody should sit up there and serve to the United States. If you're going to be a citizen and you're allowed to vote, I think there should be a requirement to vote that you serve the country.
I would argue that the draft system is innately full of fucking wrongs. All right, okay, let's say in the old days, World War II, or not World War II, but Civil War, they were able to buy their way out of the draft, rich people. But so it innately makes poor people fight rich people's wars.
If you draft everybody, it's
That's
not
how every war
you don't
works.
have that as a way of doing it, now do you?
Well, that's true, but there's always exceptions. You're not going to draft everybody.
No, you're going to draft everybody. Everybody has to report for the draft, and then they'll determine. There'll be obviously determinations whether or not you're eligible to serve or not.
Unless you have bone spurs.
Well, that may be one of the reasons why they kick you out. That's true.
No, can you
Oh, that's
still
such
be,
bullshit.
Can you still be on religious terms opposed to the war and be dismissed from the draft?
No, you won't be dismissed from the draft. You just will be put in an area where you don't have to carry a rifle. You will still serve.
But you'll still have to go through basic like everybody else, right?
You can go through basic. That's fine. You don't kill anybody in basic. Not normally.
But they train
If
you
you
to kill.
do, you
Wouldn't
did
that
something
be
wrong.
against
They
the
train.
law
Okay,
and
you're not in basic training. Is not just about training you to kill. Right? It's not just this is the best way to kill somebody. That is not the classes that you have. It has to do with,
Obviously, I'm not a moron. But they do train you to kill people.
they
Sure
train
about
you
that?
to
Are you
use
sure
your
about
weapon efficiently.
And you're not hunting. They're not training you to hunt.
No, they're not training you to hunt.
Is there anyone that has been in the military in this panel?
You're talking to them.
MC is the one. I have not. I
Then
have
we
family that
cannot
have.
argue with MC, now can we?
Sure you can.
We can. I can still argue from my perspective on this one. I do not think a compulsory draft is a good way to run anything. Your morale in your drafted army is going to be low, i.e. Vietnam. How do you respond to that?
The morale in Vietnam did not drop. It remained extraordinarily high up until the point where it was reported that we were in secret peace negotiations.
Fragging.
Fragging took place. That has nothing to do with morale.
Oh yes,
That's unit.
it
That
had
right there.
nothing to do with morale.
That does not have anything to do with the overall morale of the military. Those are individual incidents that do happen. Just like friendly fire is an individual incident that does happen during wartime situations.
Fragging is a little bit separate than, friendly fire. If you have a gung-ho sergeant who keeps putting you in the shit, well, then get rid of him. Hopefully you get a pussy.
Most of the time, that's not how that happened. When it did happen, first of all, the reports of fragging were way, people have this idea that fragging was taking place on a continuous basis. That's not true.
No, I'm not saying that.
Okay, incidents of fragging did take place during Vietnam. Yes, they were highly publicized, but they were rare events. And there were specific reasons that those things took place in those specific incidents, in those specific units. You're going to have problems in individual units, but that's not the idea of the total morale of the military.
Okay, and I'll concede that to you. How do you feel about removing all entangling alliances? So we would stop funding Israel, for example. We would break our alliance with NATO, for example. I believe that is what they're saying. It'd be catastrophic.
Well, what's the world like? What would be the result if we did that?
We could pull our many troops and dollars back and defend our own shores.
That's what we can do. What would the result be for the world?
Why is that our problem?
Because we fought 2 wars doing exactly what you said, and those wars became more devastating each time.
So we stay in NATO and we appease Turkey. We let Turkey fire into Syria. We just stand back and say, oh, they're in our alliance.
There are going to be situations where bad things happen. Welcome to the real world. Nothing is perfect out there.
Was George Washington a crazy person like me? Because he told us.
Yes, he
to not
was.
do
No,
this.
he was a person
George
who lived in the
Washington.
1700s, where it took you a month and a half to deploy troops across an ocean.
Okay, more
But we're
importantly,
living in
George
2017 where
Washington
they.
was
No, wait a
one
minute.
of the
What?
worst
Wait a minute. What?
generals of the Civil War.
First off, we could address
Revolutionary
that.
War, but
We
we'll
could
discuss
address
that later.
that. He was really good at retreating anyway. Okay, we live in 2017, and they said they deployed to North Korea. They were really all the way out by fucking Australia. They just fired at Iran yesterday. What the fuck are you talking about, dude? We're not playing this right. We need to pull back a little bit. We need to save
I
some
didn't
money. and
say
build
that. You're not
defense.
asked those. You didn't ask whether or not we've got our deployments are too widespread, but you asked to end all alliances.
I didn't ask. The Libertarian Party platform did. I don't
Oh,
necessarily agree with all of it. I do. I like Germany. Why are we still in Germany? We could pull that back. North Korea, I see a point for staying there. So I'm not unbending. You know what I mean? But we are in too many entangling alliances. Saudi Arabia. Why are we friends
I
with them
say
other than oil?
fuck everyone. Let's stick with England and France.
Why is I don't get like I get that we're so close to England after World War II, but before that there was the War of 1812 and shit, and everybody nowadays is so pro English, as I am. I am too. It's really a weird dichotomy in American culture how that shifted.
England is awesome. They actually emulated a lot of the same values that we stole. They are awesome. And the UK totally fucked them over. The only reason I'm saying let's stick with France is because without France, we wouldn't be us. So, therefore, England, my cousins, France, that douchebag kid that was really cool when you were growing up.
Oh, so France is that douchebag kid across the street from me when I was growing up. I hated
pretty
that
much.
kid. He was
Okay.
a jerk.
So what you're saying is that we should have some alliances, just pull them back a bit. If you're going to go with that attitude, I would tend to agree with you.
Well, the Libertarian Party doesn't go with that attitude, and that's what we're talking about. We are discussing
Right,
their
the Libertarian Party. If you go down the Libertarian Party's platform and you did exactly what you're saying there, all right, where we did an isolationist type of a movement with our armed forces. All right, yes, you could sit up there and draw down the U.S. military to a significant extent. We could have a standing military of about 10,000, approximately. All right. However, there are consequences for doing that in the modern age. All right. First of all, with the modern weaponry and the modern equipment, you can't just train somebody up with a rifle in 4 weeks and send them out on a battlefield. Okay. So if you all of a sudden are in a situation where you need troops and you need to start plussing up the number of troops that you need, how are they going to get that training? How are you going to how are they going to be trained in the equipment that the modern equipment that they have to utilize?
Sir, well, I shouldn't call you sir. That's kind of condescending. MC, right now we have what we call National Guards. I'm not saying to remove them, so we would have more than 10,000 standing troops. I'm saying the places for national defense, that purpose. If somebody attacks us, we go and kill them. And we kill them all, we take their shit. I'm tired of this rebuilding. Okay? We go full on Rome with their ass. Alright? That's my stance.
Once you start down that path, all right, and you declare it like that, it doesn't end. History tells you that once you decide to be like that specifically, it never ends.
Well, there is a way it could end.
Once we take over the world or we're defeated and totally destroyed. Yeah, there's which one does history show happen?
Okay. No, if somebody throws a punch at you and hits you in the mouth but you don't go down, what do?
Your internet fucking sucks.
Out. You knock them the fuck out.
Your internet fucking sucks.
I'm saying. That's what we do. We pull back and we have our troops at home. Maybe even we keep our current troop levels at home. Open up some new bases. We have lots of land here in the West.
What are we bitching about now?
somebody attacks us and we kill them, and we kill them all.
So you're saying sit there and keep the same standing force?
We could. I'm not saying we couldn't.
Are we talking about a libertarian utopia again?
Yeah.
No,
we're talking about
my personal point of
something.
view. My point of view is, yeah, the Libertarian Party does not stand in line with me. They would do what MC said and lower the troop level to 10,000. I'm saying you bring them home. If somebody starts shit, you kick the fucking eagle. We are going to rip your eyeballs out and take your shit. I'm not rebuilding any more countries. I'm not spending any more money on your shit. Like, Iraq should be our fucking new territory, as far as I'm concerned. I'm sick of this garbage. Like, why are we there fighting for somebody else? It's not our problem.
Why would you make it your territory if you want nothing to do with it?
If they attacked us, which Iraq never did, but if they did attack us, then we take their shit. We don't put up with it. We take them. And then that puts out to the world. They're like, oh shit, these guys are serious.
Okay, what do you consider an attack? You consider
North Korea
shooting a soldier? What about two soldiers? What about shooting at a ship? What about just capturing? What about capturing?
You know that, right?
Hold on. What about capturing the ship and holding the sailors hostage?
Look at me.
Iran? Are you saying?
I am the captain now.
If I was president, would I invade and take Iran for what they have done? When they captured that ship, maybe I would have. If I was sitting in the Oval Office, I might have just taken them. Fuck it.
Pirate.
Hello.
No, not those kinds of pirates. Hey guys, what's going on?
So, pirate. So we're
talking about Team America World Police.
Shit. Oh, or
no, but I don't want to attack anybody. Wouldn't that be a better national defense policy? Let's not invade every country we see.
We are not isolationists. Get over it.
Dude, Britain has already, done the whole, let's just take this over.
Brexit was a great idea.
Well, Brexit's awesome. I'm not talking about Brexit. I'm just saying, when it comes to colonizing, fucking England owns it.
How long did the British Empire last? That's a pretty good run.
That's a great run. It's the best fucking run. And then they made the bad call about the UK, and now they're shit. And
my argument would be that they didn't. First off, when they colonized shit, they weren't attacked first by the people they colonized. You have to be attacked first. At that point,
we have to talk about Britain now. We're not talking about Britain.
No,
we're talking about the United States.
Britain.
Okay, so
Britain is
when the prefecture of Satsuma opened up on the British fleet that was sailing past. Okay, would that have been a justification for them to come in there and take the island nation of Japan and rule it?
Sure. Why not? I'll go with that. I'll go crazy for you. Maybe we'll get more views. Fuck it. Yeah. Kill them.
No, but do you actually believe that?
No, I believe there's a measure here. If you're talking about somebody invading your territory, like they launched an attack on Hawaii and Pearl Harbor, that was a justification.
9/11 is a justification. Sorry, not sorry.
I never said it wasn't, but we should own Afghanistan at this point. We shouldn't be rebuilding it and letting the Taliban grow again. You see my point here. There's ways.
No, I don't.
Do you know how hard it is?
Back the fuck out. Let the Taliban get into control, and then bam, Taliban and ISIS kill each other.
Wait a minute. Wait, they already believe that we're invaders. They already believe it. So why not play the role?
So why don't we back the fuck out? Just let them do what they do. I guarantee they won't.
Fuck them. Fuck them. Fuck them all.
Dude, they are so socially inept and scientifically retarded. Let them do whatever the fuck they want.
Well, what they want
sandbox
to do is load
doesn't matter.
Do
we need
fly
sand?
them to America?
Do we need sand?
Yes.
We need sand.
No,
Go
we
to
need
fucking beach.
we need sand
Quiet.
for the beaches.
What are you going to do when their desire is to fly planes into buildings in the United States?
Do you think they can build planes? They lost.
Well, they don't need to
back
build
in the 80s.
planes. They already fucking did it.
Oh, but no, that's the thing. They already fucked our shit up. Now we have to take off our shoes and go through bullshit things. Yeah, let them do whatever they want. I think we should drop out, let them kill
So
themselves.
how many buildings do we tolerate them taking down?
Well,
We
let's
should have
see.
nuked them.
We lost 2. I think we're fine.
I didn't
Hashtag nuke
wait,
Mecca.
I have to, no, it has to stop to a screeching halt right there. We should have nuked them. Explain, Wolfshot, because that is the craziest thing. I'm crazy.
Oh,
I'm a
okay.
mad
It's a
libertarian.
hydrogen or
That's
atom
insane.
bomb, and you
We are
drop
not
it,
nuking
and when it
innocent
gets
civilians.
about
We
a
are
mile,
killing
a
100,000
They're
motherfucker
not
explodes
innocent
and kills
civilians.
everyone. Oh, who
They're innocent
cares?
civilians. There's fucking tribes
No,
there that
they
didn't do
are
shit.
not. They
I'm actually
are
against
the
nuking
enemy.
people. I'm actually against nuking people. I made that comment because we should have went in, killed Saddam, killed whoever, Osama bin Laden, and gotten the fuck out. But we didn't. So now
you did what
we're
everybody
fucked.
does.
We have
watched-
to.
No, Wolfshot.
I watched
You
Saddam
just did
be
what everybody
hung
does.
or hanged.
Iraq had nothing to do with 9/11.
Can I finish?
It was
Can I
Afghanistan.
fucking finish or not?
If you can get your facts right, yeah. It was Afghanistan and the Taliban that helped Osama, not Saddam. Saddam was against them. Now you can
I'm
finish.
sorry, Saddam should have been taken out in the 80s.
Well, that would be part of my kill them all platform I just put out there.
So, anyways, we should have done all that and left and be done with it. But we didn't. Now, what are we going to do?
What woulda, shoulda, coulda is not the point.
Well, then what are we going to? I mean, then
Because
we can't just nuke them now. We can't
No,
do
we can
much of
bomb them.
anything now besides what we're already doing.
I agree with. Well, we can do a lot more than what we're doing right now. If we
What
want.
you know what I mean? God damn, we can't just leave.
I agree. All right, but those are decisions. That's what to me. That's water under the bridge. I don't disagree with you to a point. All right, but what we should have done was, and I do believe this. All right, you people have got to understand what you're dealing with there and who we're at war with. No one wants to admit who we're at war with.
Well, MC, you can't nuke an ideology. I'm sorry, you can't.
No, but you can sit up there and nuke a group of people who are trying to kill you. Because that group of people, that culture is trying to kill us.
Yeah, but it's not like Japan. But it's not like Japan where it was centralized. I've argued this before. Muslims are everywhere.
To an extent, you're correct. All right, but you didn't have to nuke them back to the Stone Age and wipe out their industrial base like we had to do against Japan. It's not that kind of a threat. You got to sit up there and use their cultural mores and so forth against them as well. And if we'd have used one nuke 3 days after 9/11, we wouldn't have been in Iraq. We wouldn't have been in Afghanistan, and we wouldn't be having these kind of terrorist crap running around the world right now. We would have caught a lot of.
I think that's a reach. I think you're reaching. That's a reach.
We would have caught a lot of verbal hell. All right, from a lot of people. Don't get me wrong. We would have caught a lot of verbal hell, especially from the freaking Europeans, who would have sit up there and pointed fingers about how bad we are and how evil we are and how we killed quote unquote innocent civilians and everything else. But that culture out there, with the way they're decentralized, would have said, okay, I don't want that coming to me. I'm not going to support that again.
No, I think that would have strengthened their resolve.
Oh, I don't.
It's a culture based on martyrdom. It's a culture based on martyrdom.
I have to put my money in Wolfshot.
No, wait a minute. No,
it's how they do.
They're a tribalistic culture as well. It's not just a death cult. But she's right about that. There are still going to be people that would try to push that, but they wouldn't get the support necessary to do it from the rest of the people around them like they do.
Oh, bullshit! It's a cult.
MC. Okay, you drop one more nuclear bomb. America's the only country to ever drop an atomic bomb. we start dropping bombs on terrorists, not even whole fucking governments
You
that are
still
after
think
us.
that you still think that
No,
we're at
wait
war
a
with
minute.
just a terrorist group, and we're not.
Wait,
We're at war with the Arab culture.
No,
MC,
not the
MC, let me
Arabs.
finish.
Arabs
Let me
can
finish.
be Christian. They can be Jewish.
We are at
No,
let
we
me
are at
finish.
war
the
with
current
Islam.
Arab
They're
culture
I am
just
that
different.
dominates that
Islam.
entire region. It is
I am-
not a Christian culture. It is not, well, this little person's over here and this little person's over there, and there's this little group of Jews over here. Or there's some Asterathians
Wait.
over there.
Thing.
But
That's
Wait,
MC,
no,
say
wait.
it.
thing. It
Wait, no,
is-
let me finish. Let me finish real quick, guys. You're opening Pandora's box. Russia, next time they get in a fight with fucking Uzbekistan or wherever the fuck, Georgia, they're going to drop a nuke. And then the United States can't sit on their high horse anymore and say, hey, that's fucking bad. We're going to do something with NATO.
Well,
no,
what's going to stop us?
playing ground
What's going to
is
stop
even.
us from getting on our high horse anyway? That's never going to change. Just because you're taking a hypocritical stance in those cases hasn't ever changed any kind of world politics. It still goes on. If you're worried about being called a hypocrite and saying, "Oh my God, we can't be hypocritical," all right, that the world situation that it currently exists in, that we're not going to be called hypocritical, you're just deluding yourself. We've always been called hypocritical, and we're going to continue to be called hypocritical. None of that's ever going to change.
You want to live in a world where that Pandora's box is finally opened and nukes have been dropped in the modern
Pandora's
age?
box is open.
You calm down your fucking kids. How about
Well,
Thank you, Benny. Thank you.
If you think that this is going to stop right now, with the way this thing is working, this is working us right back into a World War I scenario. With the way this is playing out.
So whose assassination is going to spark it?
It's not
I guarantee it's not going to be Riley J. Dennis. No one's going to give a shit about her.
Yeah,
or
but
him,
suppose somebody decides that they are now going to be the leader of North Korea, take out Kim Jong-un and order an attack on South Korea.
On who can fit that?
I don't think anybody's going to want to start a war.
Okay, and that's where you're wrong about the Arabs.
Oh, you want to know who's going to be able to?
No, dude, no, because the Arabs, historically, Saudi Arabia and all of those Middle Eastern shit countries, they used to be for people. And Islam was, like kind of Christianity, where they had that chill period, and it was like
you're living in a deluded world.
No, because way back in the day, about the 60s, that area was badass.
In the 1960s.
There. Yeah, no one would give a shit. It was about the 70s when it got to shit because they
because
went
of the
back
Shah.
to the fucking Muhammad.
Really? There weren't incidents like the Suez Canal incident?
Look up Tehran, Iran in the 60s and 70s.
There wasn't the in the 1950s. There wasn't the actual creation of the Shah when he killed the Iranian Republic.
Okay, there is shit in every decade, but
during the 60s, we'll come back and talk about how freaking
it was pretty fucking epic.
Right? You have the 67 day. You have the 7 days war. Or the 6-day war, right about how you want to do about it.
You're pretty much saying that it was always Islamic shit.
I'm saying that area has been a powder keg forever.
Yeah, then I don't give a fuck. Honestly, I hate Islam.
I'm not talking about Islam. I'm talking about the Arab tribal culture. It's a culture mired in 12th century mentality, and it's getting modern weaponry.
But MC, it's mired in that because of Islam. It is fucking Islam. Sorry.
Islam plays a role. I'm not going to deny that.
Well,
but I'm not worried about that from the
used
perspective.
to
I just want
have
the culture.
a
I just
lot
want the
of good
culture to
ideas.
stop attacking. How are you going to convince that culture to stop attacking the West? This is what it comes down
Get
to.
rid of their fucking culture, which is Islam.
Cripple
Okay.
it. There's
Okay.
there's one major crippling thing that we could do that would ultimately just lead to Islam crumbling in on itself, and that would be bomb Mecca, because then you would have so many just fall out of faith because look, God's little or Allah's little thing that he was supposed to protect just got destroyed. So
that
the
is
religion
one way.
got,
That is one way to look at it. I'm not so sanguine that if we freaking nuked Mecca or bombed it into dust.
I'd be fine.
yeah, we
with
don't
that.
even need to nuke it. We just need to throw a couple tomahawks at it. You know, we threw tomahawks all over that fucking airfield. Why not at Mecca?
We threw tomahawks at that airfield, and the airfield was operational the next day.
Yeah, well, Mecca won't be
Well, yeah,
operating.
you were using
day.
tomahawks.
Mecca will be in ruins, so there's really nothing that can operate there anyways.
I don't think that bombing Mecca would have that kind of an effect. I think you would bring the 1 point whatever billion Arabs into a frenzied state of attack.
Nope. Muslims.
Oh,
There's a
Dude,
difference.
you're conflating
between
Arabs and Muslims, and it's
and-
irritating as fuck.
Well,
It
if
really
you
is.
if you attacked the holy site of Mecca, then I think you're going to be dealing with all Muslims, not the Arabs anymore.
That's
My
not
concept is we're at war with the Arab culture, and I want to deal with it from that perspective. If you try to exterminate the religion of Islam, all right, you're dealing with all Muslims worldwide.
Well,
All
that's
right.
an issue.
From there-
They are an
from
issue
there-
worldwide.
From there, let's move on to the next point because we're going to argue. This is international affairs area, foreign policy. So we're going to argue over everything. Internal security and individual rights. The defense of the country requires that we have adequate intelligence to detect and to counter threats to domestic security. This requirement must not take priority over maintaining the civil liberties of our citizens. And Bill of Rights shall not be suspended even during times of war. Intelligence agencies that seek to preserve the security of the nation must be subject to oversight and transparency. We oppose the government's use of secret classifications to keep from the public information that they should have, especially that which shows the government has violated the law. There's a law in here. All right, let's start with the beginning sentence. The defense of the country requires that we have adequate intelligence to detect and to counter threats to domestic security. Do you believe in the NSA? I don't think the Libertarian Party does, but they do believe in something to that effect, it sounds like.
Well, when you don't know what you're talking about with the NSA, that's how it starts.
Well, I'm talking about the giant dragnet surveillance that is an infringement on our Constitution.
The dragnet of surveillance that you're worried about has nothing to do with the targeting of the NSA headquarters. And it's the NSA, all right, is a foreign intel gathering service.
Then why do they gather information from all Americans and our Google searches and everything else? We have to use DuckDuckGo if we don't want
Because
them.
all that leaves the United States. All that
If
leaves the border.
If you have illegal immigrants coming in and looking up shit, then yes.
We're talking about, right, first of all, there's several things that have happened. First of all is the Patriot Act. The Patriot Act changed the rules that the NSA worked under. All right. One of the rules that the NSA worked under was the fact that if someone is in the United States, they have to be treated as if they're a U.S. person. It doesn't matter if they're an illegal alien. All right. They have to be treated as a U.S. person. Two, there was very specific rules about accidental listening or accidental surveillance. All right, on an area that was considered a U.S. person. Now, a U.S. person wasn't just who was in the United States. It was also U.S. citizens or U.S. corporations that were operating overseas. Those were the targets. That was specified. And if you accidentally gathered that intelligence, all right, then what you had to do was make it so that it couldn't be stored and recovered.
But as Edward Snowden plainly stated out, they're not doing that. They're saving
Snowden.
No,
Snowden.
yeah, that is one of the things. That is one of the things that Snowden outed. That's true.
Well, then,
But
why
that's
not
because
replace
of the
NSA
Patriot
with-
Act and how the Patriot Act changed the role of the NSA. Because
Well, let's
now,
consolidate the
you want to
NSA
know how this thing happens. You guys attack the NSA as if the NSA is the big boogeyman in the world without knowing what it actually does and why we're in this mess.
I'm the boogeyman.
Why are you yelling?
Because it irritates me. I'm sorry.
Smoke a bowl.
It's frustrating. I totally get it. Continue, MC.
Okay. The Patriot Act did more than just that. What it also did is it gave other intel agencies that have oversight over U.S. citizens access to their technical capabilities.
But okay, well, my argument was, why not consolidate them into the CIA if they're supposed to be recording overseas intelligence?
Because CIA
meant to
and
do the
NSA are completely different.
No, they're not. They're both intelligence gathering agencies. You could
They are
consolidate them
both
to save money.
intelligent agencies.
Wait, you're
But they
for
work
the NSA?
two
Why?
different
You're
ways.
surprising. So what? Consolidate.
No,
Put up. Why?
because that's the road to a Gestapo state.
Then cut them. Then end them, because we already have the CIA to do the job.
No,
No,
you haven't.
no.
The problem isn't that. The problem
CIA
is a centralized intelligence bureau.
And
You do
FBI
not
is
want a
federal.
centralized intelligence bureau. It consolidates power. The whole purpose of having an NSA, a CIA, and an FBI with their own little roles within the world of intelligence, right, was to prevent the centralization of intelligence and the consolidation of power. It was a safeguard.
Mad Dog, do you even know what FBI stands for?
Federal Bureau of Investigation. Yeah, they're the ones that investigate the domestic policies, while the CIA does foreign. I'm not a fucking idiot. You want me to start yelling? Question my intelligence.
Okay. Well, what
God
does
damn it.
NSA do?
Nah, whatever. They do a dragnet surveillance of everybody. Have you not listened to Rand Paul rant for 18 hours on this?
No, because Rand Paul sucks.
No, you suck.
Rand Paul can fucking wake my left nutsack.
He's the only good fucking person in the Senate. You guys are dicks.
He can wake the left
Oh,
one.
who's a good person, Wolf? Laugh it up. Who's a good fucking person?
I think
I'ma
they're all
start yelling.
terrible.
It was
I
me
think
already started
politicians in general are just fucking awful. Period.
You guys are getting me pissed. NSA is garbage,
Look, the
man.
only-
They built a gigantic fucking...
We're not
place in
attacking you. No
Utah.
one is attacking you. No one is attacking you.
They're,
That's
no,
for
and I'm-
first.
yeah, right. But no, they're building a giant fucking compound in Utah to save the data of American citizens, not foreign. They don't need that big of a compound for foreign fucking...
Citation needed.
See?
Citation
This is a-
needed.
Citation needed, like it was all over the Blaze and Fox News. They
Oh,
built it
that's
in
a
Utah.
fucking news source.
Oh yeah. What news source do
Mad.
you want? CNN? I mean, like, should I go to Alex Jones? I mean, what news source
Well,
is
I mean, you're
valid?
talking about the
right
Blaze
now,
and
today.
fucking Fox News, but you know.
What?
Once
Well,
again,
it was on CNN also.
the Patriot Act has created a lot of the problems. If you got rid of the
And we-
Patriot Act, but it's not the NSA. It's directions from the federal government, all right, on how they can do this kind of stuff, and the fact that you tore down the rules of what NSA could and was authorized and not authorized to do. If you really wanted to fix this, it's real simple. All you have to do is say, go back to the rules prior to the Patriot Act.
Okay.
Yeah, get rid of the Patriot
What
Act.
you're advocating is something that's just totally draconian and saying, you know what, we're going to end all U.S. military intelligence. That's what you're suggesting when you say get rid of the NSA.
Okay.
And the Patriot Act, seriously.
I'll meet you halfway. We'll end the Patriot Act. Okay, let's move on, because that's only the first sentence. All right.
Oh god.
And this requirement must not take priority over maintaining the civil liberties of our citizens. That was the surveillance part. All right. The Constitution and Bill of Rights shall not be suspended even during time of war. So you can't end habeas corpus. How do you feel about that?
No, I totally disagree with that.
You end habeas
You're
corpus.
going to have at times you can run the risk. You have to understand during a situation where you have huge national risk, all right, that a temporary suspension has to be able to be put in place. You have to suspend just like when you can during emergency situations, you can say, okay, the police can say there is now a curfew and you can't go past this curfew. That's a suspension of habeas corpus. And yes, it is temporary. Yes, it's an emergency. But but what you're saying is that can't happen now.
Once again, it's not me saying that. I haven't given my point of view yet. It is the Libertarian Party saying that. And but I do kind of agree with that. I don't believe that the Constitution should be suspended even in wartime. We have our rights given to us by our Creator or natural rights. It shouldn't be suspended because the government is at war with a foreign government. I'm not necessarily at war with Germany or whatnot. You know what I mean? Why should I be told to hide in my house? Why they flak everything around me? I should be able to leave. I should be able to get out of there. I should be able to speak freely. Habeas corpus is even for freedom of speech. I don't see how you say suddenly we're at war, you can't speak freely.
Because you cannot sit up there and allow a fifth column to threaten the country during dire needs, and that's what things has happened. Hold on, history has shown that those things do happen. All right, and that they can have a total deleterious effect on the nation's ability to do things. In a certain way of looking at it, you could say that that's one of the reasons why we quote unquote lost the Vietnam War.
And as okay, I'm not going to say as should we have. I'm going to say everybody had a freedom of speech. That happened. Oh well, freedom of speech. Get over it.
Yeah, that saying that when you've got troops in combat is kind of snarky and a bit flippant, in my opinion.
I'm sorry, the troops are defending your freedom of speech. How is that snarky?
And yeah, and look at how they're being treated.
I'm not treating this. I wouldn't say treat the troops bad. I'm saying
you are treating them bad when you hang them out to dry. People aren't stupid. They can see how these things happen. To say that these things can't happen and that there's absolutely no need for it, and yet look at the negative effects it can have on troops during a wartime situation and say, well, you'll just have to deal with it, you people over there, because you don't have to go to war. You're not the ones fighting.
Wait, so
fucking A. Fucking A.
No, fuck that. I shouldn't be allowed to say the fucking Vietnam War was bad because it was fucking stupid. We took over France's fucking failed job.
We're not talking about the Vietnam War from looking at it from 30 years ago.
That was stupid too.
Yeah, and look at what it did to Iraq. Instead of staying there in Iraq and solving that situation, that fifth column basically had us pull back, leading directly to the rise of ISIS. More freaking crap
we should have never invaded to begin with. Maybe if they listened.
Whether we should have been there to begin with is not. Once you send troops in an area,
yeah, we're there. We are there.
We're there, guys. Goes to hell whenever the government chooses a new fucking.
You think your life went to hell when you got people freaking getting shot at in combat?
I didn't say my life. I said my freedom of speech. We have a fucking constitution, dude. And
yes, we do have a constitution, and we're talking about Iraq in this case. And look at the damage it did in Iraq. And during a real national emergency, you want to still be able to do the same kind of crap, which would endanger the entire nation.
Well, you have another group that is saying the positive stuff. It's a balance, man.
No, it's not a balance in a wartime situation where you have to sit up there and move quickly. It becomes a fifth column.
No.
Could I interject?
So you suspend habeas corpus and you lock these people up.
Did you just tell me no? Motherfucker, I'll walk all over you.
My channel. My channel now.
It's my stream. I can say no, and I'm getting a little irritated here being yelled at. We have a freedom of speech
because you're making outrageous claims. That's what you're
outrageous claims that you shouldn't suspend habeas corpus.
I just have a question. That's all. I have a question. MC, did we do habeas corpus when 9/11 happened?
No, we did not.
Like the day of.
No.
Yes, we did. To an
The day
extent.
of, yeah.
It was a limited habeas corpus in that we sit up there and banned all movement and took control of certain areas and banned movement.
Okay. And what about like the weeks following 9/11? What happened?
We initially the movements were allowed back on a piecemeal type of basis as the airways were slowly released.
Yeah,
But
because
we
I
did seize
remember
control of the airways for I think it was a full week.
because I remember I was in high school and we couldn't go anywhere. We were on DEFCON, like we were on the red level or whatever the fuck, DEFCON 4, whatever the fuck.
We went to the one step below full nuclear weapons free.
Right.
Yeah, so
That doesn't mean that
11
weapons will be
hours.
used, but it means that weapons are free.
So I remember, especially, I was living outside of Norfolk, which is, the NOB, Navy military base. Everyone, there were barricades. There was a lot of shit we couldn't access being close to Norfolk
Yes.
at that time. And I understand that because they didn't want some other fucking asshole to go on base and blow it up. Anyways, continue.
I was in Atlanta at the time. Fucking intense because our airport is like the busiest airport or something like that. Everybody was kind of freaked out that we were going to be one of the attacks as well.
Oh, dude, fucking the Hampton Roads area after 9/11, like, shut down. We couldn't go anywhere for like a week or so. And I frankly didn't want to fucking go anywhere.
I don't think
Honestly.
anyone did. No one wanted to after 9/11. Everyone was so scared about going on public flights like that. Everyone was.
Well, even they even closed off the bridge tunnel to go across the water.
Yes,
Closed
they
the bridges.
they closed access to several areas that they
Yeah,
considered important or possible, or either possible targets or areas that would possibly be needed to relocate for travel purposes.
Oh,
they
but the
had the
Saudis got to
Chesapeake-
fly away.
They had the Chesapeake Bay
Once
Bridge
again,
tunnel
that has nothing to
closed.
do with we're talking theoretical, not things the things that to excuse the things that went down.
All right, then let's move on because I'm done yelling. Okay, the last sentence in this section. We oppose the government's use of classification to keep the public information that they should have, especially when it shows that the government violated the law. Pretty much, leakers. I'm guessing you hate WikiLeaks, right?
I think WikiLeaks when they started paying people to spy and grab our classified information, that those people should be held accountable for that.
I did.
Treated
If they were
just
paid to
like
do so,
spies.
if they were paid to do so, I totally agree. If they were a leaker because of their conscience, I disagree. But if they were paid, then
I don't care
agree
if they're a
with you.
leaker because of their conscience either. I mean, if somebody goes up there and says, you know what, I'm a leftist and I want to harm this country, therefore I'm going to leak. That's leaking for conscience. I don't support that either.
No, if
Is that treason?
they give certain information that should not be known and it puts other people in danger, no, I'm not a fan. So
what about Deep Throat and the Nixon thing? Was he committing treason?
No, he was doing something good, but he was caught. So if he was branded for treason, totally fine.
Well, Deep Throat
was never caught.
Yeah.
Well, then there we go. I'm totally fine with him. But if you are caught, you deserve what you get.
I don't know. I would like to know when the government does something like the Tuskegee experiments and shit like that, and they're messing people up. I think there should be a leaker on stuff like that.
They're having a whistleblower for illegal activity. All right, I don't have a problem with it, but we're not talking about that, are we?
I think the libertarian platform was. I kind of brought
No,
up Edward
the
Snowden
libertarian
because
platform is basically saying we should be the ones. There shouldn't be any classified information because we're the ones who should be determining what's going on. The problem that you have with it is that if you have classified information, no matter where it is, if you say that classified information has to be allowed, okay, then there is going to be the possibility that somewhere along the lines it's going to be abused. How are you going to prevent that? How are you going to stop all abuse? You won't.
Yeah, I can see the public with some classified information. I can see that going real fucking well.
We already had a number of our troops that almost got shot for the simple expedient reason that the press decided to sit up there and out what some of our movements were in Iraq.
yeah, and I'm not going to argue with you on that. I don't think Edward Snowden put anybody in direct danger. I don't believe he released a CIA list.
Snowden.
Snowden sit up there and handed over data on the targeting of China and the Soviet Union in the Pacific. It wasn't just, oh, we have these few files. He downloaded servers of data, and then that data is now in the hands of our enemies.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I don't want to argue with you on this one because I'm kind of on the middle with it. Because, yeah, the government can't release everything. We can't know, like, we can't have out on the news, we're going to be moving here and doing this in World War II.
There's a reason why I get irritated, because Snowden is saying, okay, this person was doing something wrong, a person was doing something wrong here. Fine. Okay. Tell us who it is. Show us the data that outs this person doing something illegal so we can hold them accountable. I have no problem with that. But that's not what he did.
Yeah, no, and like I said, I think I'm almost pretty much with you on this one, MC.
And that's not what his little friend over there in frickin' Afghanistan, little Bradley Manning, did either.
Let's not get into the Bradley Manning thing. That'll open up a whole new can of worms that I don't want to touch with a 10-foot pole.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't want to touch it at all. All right, so international affairs. American foreign policy should seek an America at peace with the world. Our foreign policy should emphasize defense against attack from abroad and enhance the likelihood of peace by avoiding. We would end the current U.S. government policy of foreign intervention, including military and economic aid. We recognize the right of all people to resist tyranny and defend themselves and their rights, and especially the use of terrorism against the innocent, regardless of whether such acts are committed by governments or by political or revolutionary groups. The only thing I really want to touch on this is economic aid, because I think we covered everything else arguments today. How do you feel about giving aid when we're so far in debt?
It depends why you're giving.
Let's start with Pirate this time, since I give you the lead every time. I don't think Pirates talk. So, Pirate, how do you feel about economic aid?
Well, I feel like there needs to be a level of integrity that will probably never be reached with the American government. So, this is sort of a pointless view, but I do think we should maintain like things that we've promised people. If we go into a deal, we shouldn't back out of the fucking deal.
Okay, I would come back with, okay, let's say we finish our deal, like we have an economic policy with them for like 3 years, but Congress wants to renew it. Should we not renew it? I would say we shouldn't because we're so far in debt.
Yeah, no, there needs to be a little trial period about, I mean, I don't know how long you should give it, maybe 2-3 years. Who knows? But, give it a bit of time, see if it does anything. And if it doesn't, fucking scrap it, start from plan, or start from fucking square one.
All right, MC, you're chomping at the bit. Go ahead, sir.
It depends on what you're talking about when you talk about aid. Why are we giving the aid?
Let's start with Israel. Why are we giving them aid? Wait. I know the common answer. I know the answer. Because they're surrounded by enemies. But right now, they have a large military. They have nukes. They can defend themselves, can they not?
I think we've discussed this before, where it's the Israeli Defense Force, a strike force. They are a reactive military, not a proactive military. They do not strike first.
I'm saying we should keep. I'm talking about economic aid. It also talked about military aid, I suppose. So you could talk about both. My bad.
Well, you brought up giving money to Israel, and that's, I think, 90% of what they
but-
fucking spend their money on.
Well, the question is why were we giving them aid? The main reason we were giving them aid wasn't because they were surrounded. The reason we were giving them aid was because we had our enemies all around them.
They're our only ally in the fucking Middle East. That might be why.
Now things have obviously changed. All right. I mean, obviously time moves on. So do we need to give them the kind of economic aid that we have in the past? For the most part, I would say no. But that's not, we weren't giving them aid because we're like, oh, look, these poor people here, let's pat them on the head and we'll give them aid. So that's what I mean by why are we giving them aid? It would depend, when you talk about economic aid, it depends on why you're doing it. If we decided to, for example, let's assume that the entire South America goes absolutely rabid communist, all right, where they basically become a military as well as threat to the United States. At that point in time, I would have no problem giving economic aid to Mexico to give us a buffer state from Latin America.
Fucking A.
Yeah, but I don't know. I don't like the entangling alliances. I honestly believe we should pull out of the UN. How do you feel about that?
We should have pulled out of the UN a long time ago.
Yeah, I agree with that.
We at least, if we don't pull out of the UN, maybe pulling out is too drastic, but I would reduce our funding to the UN drastically. I don't think we need to be funding it and becoming the world's piggy bank. All right, whenever this kind of crap goes down.
No,
okay,
don't pull out.
Wait a minute. Since you talked about funding, what about the NATO countries that don't put in their 2%? Should they leave NATO?
Should they leave NATO? Well, depends on how you want to look at it. They should be allowed to they should be for, if they're going to be part of the alliance, then that should be if that's a requirement of something that they're living up to, then they need to live up to their agreements just like we should be living up to ours.
So when do we draw the line and say you're not giving your 2%, you're out? Because only the United States, Great Britain, and Turkey does their 2%, I believe. And I might be wrong on Turkey, but I know the U.S. and Great Britain do. And the U.S. does like 10% or 15%. So.
Well, the rules were they were supposed to do 2% to their national military of their overall GDP. It was supposed to be spent on military forces. And it's obvious.
NATO forces, I thought. I thought it was specifically NATO.
No, they weren't NATO. They were military forces. There were additional requirements that is one of the reasons why we have bases and everything over there. But the big thing was that they're supposed to spend 2% of their GDP on their military. And that's not the only alliance like that, and it's not the only alliance where we're the ones catching the shaft for it either.
Is there a Pacific
should
alliance?
We playing hardball with these nations? Should we be doing more to sit up there and put the U.S. first? Of course we should. But once again, that's a political decision.
Well,
how are you going to codify something like that? Well, but how are you going to codify that in a national thing of saying, well, this is what we want? I understand that, but that's like a wish list, all right, of things. Yes, there should be readdressing of these.
We tell the countries like Poland that aren't doing their 2%, you have 4 years to do it or you're out. And Poland will do it. They do not want to be out of NATO. They're right on the border with Russia. We could pull our political weight over there with NATO. Now, the UN, we're kind of drowning there. So I think
we're used by the UN as a piggy bank. We need to end our funding of the UN. We are overfunding the UN big time. If they want the same rights, if these other nations, okay, that constantly talk about how the UN is where we're outnumbered and outvoted constantly in the UN, if they want to sit up there and have that kind of power to say, you're just like we are, then that's fine. Then we're going to pay what we want to pay, not what you want us to pay. And countries like Brazil, China, all right, India, and several others. Since we're talking about, okay, we're going to use population base, bring it.
All right.
We'll use population bases. I have no
gotta
problem
take
with
off
that.
for a second and go use the bathroom. Benny and Quiet and Pirate have hardly talked, so as well. You guys keep going on this, and then we'll move on when I get back.
I apologize for getting heated.
Goddamn fucking dumbass.
No, it's okay.
I've actually been backing you, MC. Like, that's why I haven't been talking.
Well,
MC,
I know. What?
Are you secretly like Tucker Carlson or something?
No, I am not Tucker Carlson.
Do I win? Do I win tickets to the show, Tucker? Come on. Fucking tie me up. I'm ready to go.
I don't think I have his mellifluous voice, but I do appreciate the comparison. It is amusing, but no, I'm not like Tucker Carlson. And the reason I got a little hot under the collar about the NSA is because after I worked for the NSA, I know what their mission actually is. I know how it's been bastardized. And when people say, "Well, we'll just cut the NSA out," that's not the problem. And if you want to centralize power, you really don't want to centralize intelligence into a single agency. That would be a massive mistake. That's how you end up in a police state.
Okay, well, I mean, does he realize that the CIA and the FBI are probably just like viciously going after the NSA in these times right now? With all this alleged corruption in the NSA, you'd think that the other intelligence agencies, being the fucking wolves that they are,
well, what they've been doing is
no, definitely not. CIA is far worse. FBI, they're pretty awesome. I'm not gonna lie.
The CIA and the FBI have been utilizing the NSA's abilities. That's where a lot of this has been happening, because when after 9/11, after the Patriot Act was passed, all right, what basically has been happening is the kind of sharing of intel, but it's not just a sharing of intel, it's a direction of intel of, okay, we want to have you target this. We would like you to view this. All right. All of that has become blurred. So the missions that were concentrated by the NSA, all right, are being co-opted in a lot of senses, all right, by requests from the other agencies, because we have the technical means to do certain things. But when you have the technical means to do certain things, when your direction, where your focus is at, right? All of that has been realigned now. It's being realigned by these requests by these other agencies. And that's where a lot of the problem begins. The Patriot Act really did a lot of damage. And one of the things that people were complaining about after 9/11, of course, was everyone said, well, how come people didn't connect the dots, right? How come people weren't connecting the dots? Well, they had all this intel, right? And it's true that some of the intel was over in this group, and some of the intel was over in that group, and some of the intel was over in this group. But the real reason they were doing that was to shield the idiots, all right, who were mostly responsible for what happened. And that was the FBI. Because that was their role. They did have the evidence, and they did with what they had. They didn't need any additional evidence. Okay, they had enough intel on these guys to have acted long before they did, long before 9/11. They could have acted 2-3 years prior to that, but there wasn't the political will at that time to act in that kind of an aggressive manner. So what's the response? We're going to overreact, and at the same time, we're not going to out just how frickin' the FBI let us all down. And the main reason was because they were protecting the FBI. The FBI came out at 9/11 squeaky clean, as if, they're the grand, glorious people. They've never done anything wrong.
No, well, I'm not
even now they've been protecting the FBI. Well, it's just Comey. It's just Mueller. It's just a few of these people. No. There are major structural problems right now in the FBI. It has become far too politicized. It's not acting like an intel agency. It's acting like a political agency.
How many of you want to bet that Mad Dog's in the bathroom softly weeping to himself?
No, I've been back for a few minutes, Dick.
my head was starting.
All right, we only have a couple more to go. We're on 3.5 out of 3.7 of them. All right, so libertarians embrace the concept that all people are born with certain inherent rights. We reject the idea that a natural right can ever impose an obligation upon others to fulfill that right. We condemn bigotry as irrational and repugnant. Government should neither deny nor abridge any individual's harm based upon sex, blah, blah, blah. Or members of private organizations retain their rights to set whatever standards, So, in other words, they really go with the whole liberal point of view on that. So, I don't want to talk about it, but this is pretty much what it's talking about. Transsexuals in the fucking military. It's pretty much they're against it. But I don't know. I don't even want to touch it with a 10-foot pole. So should we move on past that? I really don't care. I don't want to touch it, dude, really. I have no real thing to say. I don't know anything about it. The only thing I will say, I'll go ahead and say it. The president is the commander-in-chief. If he wants to do it, he has the power. That's it. I don't agree with it. I don't really know if I agree with it because I don't know. I've never been in the military. I don't know the dynamic of
the
the
United
military.
States
I
Congress,
don't really care.
The United States military functions under the UCMJ. All right, where a lot of this stuff comes from. The UCMJ is written by Congress. Congress has a lot of power to enact or not enact several different things that the military, from a justice perspective, from an individual level, all right, has to obey. There are a number of checks and balances if the legislature wants to move on those.
All I know is the president is the commander-in-chief. If he writes it in as an order to the army, then they have to do it, right?
If he writes it, they have to, as long as it doesn't violate the Constitution, then yes, they'd have to do it.
And that's my only thing is Trump has the power. I don't think it's right, but I don't want to touch it. Like, I don't want... that sucks. I didn't even read the whole platform. I didn't know this was going to hit it.
All right, now
let's
go on to the next thing then, if you want.
Yeah, exactly. I don't want to touch this.
Well,
so,
if I'm...
Oh, yeah, go ahead. If you want to touch it, go for it.
Just I have nothing to say about the political aspect of this. I don't care who the fuck enacted it. It doesn't fucking matter. It happened. All right, it's over. It's already done. But I believe that everybody, if they want to go for it, try it. We have a process. It's called basic training in AIT. And those things are decently tough. And I don't think a lot of these trenders who would try to be going into the military would make it through at all. Like, I don't believe any of them would honestly make it through. But if they want to go for it, let them. I believe it's all based off of merit. Prove what you're worth. However, there's a thing called dysphoria. This problem is like there's a chemical imbalance in their brains, and they have dysphoria. And
Fuck me to death.
You top that on to fucking PTSD. Say somebody does make it through, right? You top that on with PTSD, yeah, you're gonna be living a pretty fucked up life. I'm sorry to say, but that's what you're signing up for.
Yeah, I would point everybody to a video I watched earlier by 40 Ounce, and he went through the statistics, and that's all I'm going to say else on the topic. And he didn't have a side on it, really. He just laid out the suicide rate for the military and for depressed and other stuff, and also trans people. Sending them into the military is probably a bad idea because the suicide rate might jump. And I don't know. That's just statistics. I don't know shit about this. I didn't want to touch it. I didn't know it was on the platform. I'm kind of irritated with the Libertarian Party right now.
Plus, one of the things you have to take into consideration is when it comes to joining the military, if you have certain disabilities, whether it be mental or physical, you can't be discharged. And MC can't agree with me on this, right?
Yeah, that's true. They specify what they consider a disability, whether it's recognized or not. For example, bone spurs are not recognized as a disability by any group. It is a medical condition. I would agree with that is considered a medical condition, but it's also considered a disability. That's why the United States military will frown on people coming in with bone spurs if they have a history of bone spurs. If they have a medical history of kidney stones, I've seen people get rejected for that. But but those rules vary from time frame to time frame. They weaken those rules and they strengthen those rules depending upon the direct needs of the military at the time. If they need more people in and they're having difficulty, they start to slacken the rules off. If the military is full up and they have more people trying to get in than they need, then all of a sudden they tighten down a lot of the rules and requirements just because they can.
Also, there's a lot of things that you can get discharged for, even for the smallest things. Like, is it one of the requirements for saying, like, for example, tattoos? You can't have tattoos on your hands, your neck, or your face. Is that correct?
I haven't been in the military, but my buddy tried to join the National Guard, and they said any tattoos he couldn't cover would make him ineligible unless he's got a waiver. So I would say yes to that question.
Well, I was mostly asking MC because.
Well, I know, and he was silent on it, so I just had to put my personal anecdote.
I'm trying to answer Captain Coldpile.
Oh, and I want Captain to come on because he'll argue from my point of view. It sounds like in the chat, like I've talked to him in Ogre's chat and here. Like I think me and him are like-minded. He needs to get a damn mic, Captain. What kind of captain doesn't have a microphone? What the fuck? Even the Pirate Nation has a microphone.
If the dude has his cell phone, he could just use Google Hangouts through that.
I'm just saying, I was just fucking with Captain. But we can move on. Like I said, the last one, or no, it's not the last one. Representative government. We support election systems that are more representative of their electorate at the federal, state, and local levels. As private voluntary groups, political parties should be free to establish their own rules for nomination procedures, primaries, and conventions. We call for an end to the tax finance subsidies to candidates or parties and the repeal of all laws which restrict voluntary financing of election campaigns. We oppose laws that effectively exclude alternate candidates and parties, deny ballot access. So anybody should be able to run. Everybody should be able to do whatever they want within their party. What they don't touch here, though, is the debates, because the Democrats and Republicans do that together. Exclude the Libertarians, but the Libertarians have been fighting to join. I'm a little confused by this one.
You're a little confused by what?
The fact that they say that each party can make their own rules, but that they still want access to the debates. It seems kind of hypocritical.
Well, who sponsors the debates?
The Republican National Committee and the Democratic National Committee, right?
Nope.
Oh, the Federal Elections Commission?
Nope.
Okay, who?
The media.
So they should be allowed in then. All right.
Sure,
so
but it's up to the media to determine who they want to be in. They're the ones that issue the invites.
Yeah. The fucking YouTube skeptics political debate. You think any of them would join next election cycle? That could work.
Do you think that the media would let them in? The main quote unquote mainstream media would say, okay, we'll listen to you.
No, but YouTube might listen, and they could stream it live on YouTube. We could donate money to a crowdfunding thing. We could do this, man.
You could probably do something like that. Now, whether or not anybody watches, who knows?
You could, but depending on the audience and what the subject is about, And if it goes, say, widespread, like to other social media platforms, you gotta have the ones that are gonna disagree, but what they will do is misconstrue what the whole thing is supposed to be about.
Well, you're going to have to put, first of all, if you're going to have a debate with multiple groups, okay, you're going to have someone or some agency determining, okay, which ones we're inviting and which ones we're not. Okay, and it used to be no one ever questioned the media as to what criteria they were using, because they would just use their own criteria, and no one ever questioned what that criteria was. So then they came back with a new criteria. That was this whole thing of them saying, okay, if you have so much of the of the numbers as far as percentage of support, then we'll let you in the debate. For when they do a poll, and you reach certain levels, they would allow you on the debate floor during the primaries, or not allow you on the debate floor. All right, but either way, you're going to have an outside agency determining who's going to be participating with those debates.
Yeah, and the level was 3%, but Gary Johnson won the lawsuit, so next time around, Libertarian might be in the debate.
I mean, they can win that lawsuit all they want, but we'll see whether or not the next time that happens.
Yeah, for sure. So you guys don't have much to say on elections?
What do you want me to say on the election?
Kid Rock
Well,
is
that's pretty much what
stupid.
you want to talk about Kid Rock? We can talk about Kid Rock. I think another outsider would be good, as long as he's not like Al Franklin.
Dwayne Johnson for president.
Stop making celebrities and fucking stupid people famous.
Kanye West.
I like Kid Rock's old albums. I like Kid Rock.
I bet you do, honey. I bet you do.
Oh, is that like when they say, "Oh, bless your heart" down in the South?
Yeah, bless your pea-picking heart. My problem with it, he's not going to know his asshole from his elbow. That's my problem.
He's been hanging out with Hank Jr. He's got to know something.
About politics? About how the Senate works?
Oh, no, but he can sing some great country music from the governor's mansion or the senator's mansion, whatever. Ha ha ha. No, nobody. All right, we're moving on.
Fucking libertarian.
Self-determination. Whenever any form of government becomes destructive of individual liberty, it is the right of the people to alter or abolish it, and to agree on such new governance as to them shall seem more likely to protect their liberty. Libertarians are pro-succession, as am I. MC, go ahead and tear me apart.
Okay, so what you're going to say is that anytime you want, you just dissolve the government, even if it's a minority.
Well, if you dissolve the city within a state, why is that not okay? If the city voted to dissolve its connection to the state.
How can you do that?
I don't know how you would do it that locally. That was kind of a stupid example. We'll go to the obvious one, all right? The Civil War. They had state conventions which seceded from the Union and left. In West Point...
Did they join the Union? Did they become part of the Union? Do you become part of the nation because you vote yourself in?
Now, they became part of the Union after the Revolution. Wait. The Revolutionary War ended. King George signed a treaty with every single state. Therefore, they were individual unions. They then entered into a mutual compact, which they agreed to. That was
the original 13 states. Okay. That was not the United States at the time of the Civil War.
So the original 13 could have split apart from each other? I'm not getting your logic here.
Well, exactly.
Continue your line of thinking. I'm not understanding.
Hold on a second.
Is he finding notes? Am I really screwed now? Shit.
Tucker Carlson's coming at you. He's gonna get you, Mad Dodge.
All right. Well, no, and
Mad douche.
no, Mad Dude. That's what a lot of people call it, or Mad
need
Dog.
to respond to Captain Coldpile.
The
original of the original 13 under those rules, if you apply those rules, then yes, that's exactly what I'm saying. All right. However, the problem is that the United States was no longer, the government was no longer just 13 colonies. You did not just start with 13 colonies that banded together for national defense. You had created in a system that those 13 colonies also agreed with, all right, to let people in states and out states, called the Constitution of the United States. And every single one of those original 13 colonies ratified that.
Now, MC, I would come back with as late as 1855 at West Point, in their military books, they taught
regardless that is all philosophical from a military perspective as it was being taught at that time. That has that has a lot. And the military has a different viewpoint of how things were reacting. Furthermore, the military at that time, all right, especially the officer corps, was dominated by the Southern influence. Most of the people that were in there were from the South.
Okay. Here's
so of course
of
course there's going to be heavily influence the
okay.
the
MC,
philosophy.
That was exhibit A of my evidence. Here is exhibit B. Massachusetts threatened to leave the Union because of the Fugitive Slave Act, and the South did nothing. They said, "Okay, have fun, be gone." That the Yankees agreed with secession as far back as 1830. That's when the Massachusetts thing happened, right? Like, I do know history. Did
they attempt to secede?
They had a convention.
There's a lot of foolish people.
Convention, and they chose not to leave.
Right.
But they were triggering.
And what would have been the result?
Nothing. At the time, the president.
It would not have been nothing. They probably would have been forced to try and defend themselves, and they would have been defeated.
I don't think the South would have backed that, and I don't think the
South would have backed it big time at that time, because you still have to realize what the intention of the Constitution is.
It is a voluntary pact.
No, it is not a voluntary pact.
So you prescribe to how Abraham Lincoln changed the whole mindset after the war. We won, therefore it is.
You killed Abraham Lincoln before the war was even over.
I am not related to John Wilkes Booth. I did not shoot Abraham Lincoln. But as the war was going, he put out his idea of the Constitution, and it was more like the Democrats nowadays with a progressive Constitution, a living Constitution. No, we're talking about a set-in-stone Constitution that Scalia defended, is what we're talking about. It's secession. If you can enter a voluntary compact, if I join a club with you,
a nation is not a club.
It was kind of how they joined it, and they kind of made the Constitution underhandedly. But I don't really want to argue that today. But the way they did that was bullshit. Also, I believe they joined in a mutual compact. Therefore, you can leave it. And I also believe that they didn't try Jeff Davis because they didn't want to lose. They didn't want to validate the Confederacy after the fact.
It had nothing to do with that. The main reason they didn't try frickin' Jefferson Davis, the reason they dropped all that was because people wanted to move on. And all it was going to do was rehash old wounds at a time period when you're trying to draw the nation together. It would have been counterproductive. It had absolutely nothing to do with whether or not he would have been found innocent or guilty.
Anybody else have any thoughts on secession? Me and MC could argue this for hours. I would like to go to the after show and just hang out for a little bit.
I'm just gonna say this. I think you're fucking retarded.
Okay,
I think you should
fair, Benny. No, I'm not. I'm talking about secession, though, not necessarily the Civil War. That's the only example in American politics that we have. So we have to argue that. You know what I mean? When we're talking about unless you want to argue European secession, which the U.S. backed 100%, why would they back that?
Because it's best for the United States. Why does the United States do a lot of things? Why do you
Fair
think we
enough.
support dictators in certain areas?
All right. Here's the last thing. Part 4, omissions. Our silence about any particular government law, regulation, ordinance, directive, edict, control, regulatory agency, activity, whatever, should not be construed to imply approval. In other words, they're against everything they didn't talk about, pretty much, is what it sounds like. And I guess we'll end it on that. That was part 3. We're moving on to the Green Party next, and I should be more liked on that one. So
I don't think you're
everybody
unliked or anything.
You fucking hippie.
Yeah, it's all good. But thank you, everybody. I'm going to start the Green Party streams next week with their platform. Have a good night, guys.